He is not just another referee on a football pitch. François Letexier is a trained lawyer. Outside football, he works part-time as a court bailiff, a person responsible for carrying out legal decisions made by others. In football, he became known as the man who could control the biggest matches without becoming the headline himself. At only 35 years old, he became the youngest referee ever appointed to officiate a European Championship final. 2 years ago, the organization responsible for maintaining football records named him the best referee in the world. He was considered the perfect official, calm, reliable, and trusted for the moments when the game mattered most. But now, after one dramatic night at the World Cup, everything has changed. Reports claim François Letexier is facing an internal review by FIFA. His social media presence has reportedly disappeared, and an entire nation is demanding that he be removed from the tournament. So how does a referee considered the best in the world go from being celebrated globally to becoming the center of a football storm in just 90 minutes? Before the match started, almost nobody was talking about François Letexier. And that was exactly how he liked it. A great referee is usually the one nobody notices. Born in a small town in Brittany, Western France, Letexier's rise was surprisingly quick. He took charge of his first French top-flight match in 2016, and just 1 year later he received his FIFA referee badge. From that point forward, his career accelerated. He officiated major European matches, including a European Championship final, a European Super Cup, a European Club final in Istanbul, and even games at the Olympic Games. In 2024, the International Federation of Football History and Statistics officially recognized him as the world's best referee. He was the type of referee football organizations choose when they want the match itself to be remembered, not the official holding the whistle. That is why FIFA selected him for one of the biggest knockout matches of the tournament, Argentina against Egypt. The reigning world champions, led by Lionel Messi, faced an Egyptian team that had created history by reaching a World Cup knockout stage unlike anything their country had experienced before. The match was scheduled at Atlanta Stadium on Tuesday, July 7th. It was Letexier's third appearance of the tournament, and FIFA surrounded him with a full European officiating team. For the opening 15 minutes, everything looked normal. Then the chaos began. Egypt shocked Argentina when Yasser Ibrahim rose above everyone from a set piece and headed the ball into the net. Suddenly, the underdogs were ahead. Then Argentina received a golden opportunity to respond. Lionel Messi stepped up from the penalty spot, but the Egyptian goalkeeper produced a huge save. The goalkeeper was not finished. He stopped another attempt from Alexis Mac Allister. Then he denied Julian Alvarez. Argentina, the strongest team in the competition, were struggling to break through. They were 1 goal behind, frustrated and running out of answers. And then came the moment that changed everything. In the 58th minute, Egypt launched a dangerous counterattack. Mohamed Salah collected the ball with open space ahead of him before finding Mostafa Zico with a perfectly timed pass. Zico moved forward, lifted the ball over the Argentine goalkeeper, and sent it into the net. 2-0. The Egyptian substitutes exploded from the bench. Across Egypt, from Cairo to Alexandria to Aswan, fans celebrated what looked like the biggest moment in their football history. But the celebration did not last. Because while everyone was watching the goal, the video assistant referee was looking somewhere else. Around 20 seconds before the goal, at the opposite end of the pitch, Egyptian midfielder Marwan Attia had collided with Argentina defender Lisandro Martinez. Attia grabbed part of Martinez's shirt, and then his boot appeared to come down onto Martinez's foot. François Letexier was far away from the incident. He saw the challenge during live play but allowed the match to continue. Now suddenly he was being called toward the monitor on the sideline. The decision that followed would define the entire night. Letexier watched the replay. Then he returned to the pitch, and he ruled the goal out. Egypt were still leading 1-0, but the entire atmosphere of the match had changed. Everything that happened afterward came from that one decision. 9 minutes later, Egypt thought they had finally escaped the pressure. Mostafa Zico found the back of the net once again, and this time there was no discussion. The goal counted. Egypt were leading 2-0, A place in the World Cup quarterfinals was suddenly within reach. The dream that had seemed impossible before the tournament was becoming real. Argentina, the defending champions, looked lost. Their attacks were slow, their confidence was fading, and Egypt appeared ready to complete one of the biggest shocks in World Cup history. But then the match turned into something completely different. In the 79th minute, Argentina found a lifeline. Christian Romero rose inside the penalty area and scored a powerful header to bring Argentina back into the game. The pressure increased. Just 4 minutes later, Lionel Messi delivered another historic moment. He found the equalizer, making the score 2-2 and bringing Argentina back from the edge of elimination. Egypt had been minutes away from one of the greatest victories in their football history. Now they were fighting just to survive. And then, deep into stoppage time, the final blow arrived. Enzo Fernandez entered the penalty area and connected with a header that sent the ball into the net. Argentina had completed the comeback. 3-2. Egypt were eliminated. But after the final whistle, the match stopped being only about football. It became a controversy. It became a debate about decisions, rules, and whether the biggest moments of the tournament were being judged fairly. Egypt's complaints were not focused on only one incident. They pointed to a series of moments that they believed changed the result. The first came before Argentina's winning goal. During the final minutes, Hamdi Fathi went down inside Argentina's penalty area after appearing to have his shirt pulled by Alexis Mac Allister. Egypt wanted a penalty. The referee disagreed. The video assistant referee did not intervene. Then came another moment, just seconds before Argentina scored the winner. Mohamed Salah was carrying the ball toward the Argentine box when he collided with Julian Alvarez. Salah fell face-first onto the pitch. Again, Letexir waved play on. Again, VAR remained silent. Argentina quickly regained possession. They moved forward. And moments later, they scored the goal that ended Egypt's World Cup journey. That sequence became the foundation of Egypt's argument. A goal had been removed because of an incident that happened far away and almost 20 seconds earlier. Then, 2 possible penalty situations near the end of the match were never sent to the referee's monitor. Egypt's head coach Hossam Hassan did not hide his frustration after the game. Speaking to reporters, he said his team had been treated unfairly and that they had suffered a serious injustice. He suggested that there were forces who wanted the world champions to remain in the competition. Egyptian forward Mostafa Zico went even further, claiming the tournament was manipulated. The emotions continued on the pitch. In the 94th minute, Letexir showed a red card to a member of Egypt's staff. At one point, Hossam Hassan crossed his arms above his head in an X shape. That gesture is used by FIFA as a signal for players and coaches to report discrimination during matches. He later received a yellow card. Neither Hassan nor the Egyptian Federation publicly explained exactly what message he intended with the gesture, and FIFA did not release any official statement about it. But the anger was already spreading. And then came the official action. Egypt decided not to leave the controversy on the field. They took it directly to FIFA. The Egyptian Football Association submitted a formal complaint, signed by Federation President Hani Rida. This was not a simple request asking for clarification. The complaint demanded an investigation into François Letexir and the entire officiating team. Egypt accused the officials of making serious refereeing mistakes and applying different standards throughout the match. They wanted FIFA to examine both the referee and the VAR officials, especially regarding what they described as obvious errors and a failure to properly review important incidents. And their strongest demand was clear: remove François Letexir and his entire crew from the rest of the World Cup. Egypt was not asking FIFA to be more careful in future matches. They wanted action immediately. They wanted the referee sent home. FIFA confirmed that it had received Egypt's complaint. But this was not the only controversy surrounding refereeing decisions at this World Cup. The complaint arrived at a time when FIFA was already facing questions about how decisions were being handled. Only days earlier, American forward Folarin Balogun had his one-match suspension temporarily removed, allowing him to play in one of the biggest matches the United States had faced in years. The decision itself was not what created the headlines. The attention came because the President of the United States had publicly criticized the original punishment and said he had personally raised the issue with FIFA's president. So when Hossam Hassan suggested that powerful influences could affect decisions at this tournament, his comments came during a period when questions about football politics were already being discussed. That was the environment in which Egypt's complaint arrived. And now the important question became, what happens when a complaint reaches FIFA? Because a complaint is only as powerful as the process that handles it. The French newspaper L'Equipe reported that FIFA would examine François Letexier's decisions from the match before deciding whether he would continue working at the tournament. The report came from Letexier's own country, and it immediately created headlines around the football world. But the same report also contained an important detail. FIFA was unlikely to remove him simply because Egypt demanded it. The review process would continue privately. The footage would be analyzed. The referee's decisions would be studied. But the public would not necessarily see the result. FIFA did not announce a public hearing. It did not reveal a deadline. It did not promise that the final decision would be released. And that is where the biggest criticism began. Because FIFA already has a system for reviewing every referee after every match at the World Cup. Behind the scenes, officials analyze every major decision. The communication between the referee and the video assistant referee is recorded. The match footage is reviewed from multiple angles. Every important moment is examined. That process started immediately after the Argentina-Egypt match. The file on François Letexier already existed. It was created the same night, but the contents of that file remain private. FIFA does not release referee evaluation reports to the public. And that creates the central argument surrounding this controversy. The organization that selected the referee is also the organization reviewing his performance. The evidence is controlled by FIFA. The decision about whether the referee made mistakes is also controlled by FIFA. Egypt cannot access the complete review. Fans cannot access it either. Meanwhile, Hossam Hassan made his own decision after elimination. He said he would not watch the rest of the tournament. His team had come within minutes of reaching a historic World Cup quarterfinal. Now their journey was over. But even with all the anger surrounding the match, there was one reality that Egypt could not change. Under FIFA's rules, national teams do not have the power to remove referees. The appointment of officials belongs to FIFA's refereeing committee. Country can complain. A federation can demand an investigation. But it cannot choose which referee stays or leaves. That means the strongest request in Egypt's complaint, the demand to remove Letexier from the tournament, was ultimately a decision only FIFA could make. And FIFA did not have to follow Egypt's request. This type of controversy is not new in World Cup history. In 2002, Italy were eliminated by South Korea in the round of 16, and Italian fans spent years criticizing Ecuadorian referee Byron Moreno. Many believed decisions had gone against them. But nothing was ever proven. Nothing was ever changed. The result remained in the history books. A nation's anger toward a referee can become a worldwide debate, can dominate headlines, it can create emotional arguments, but it cannot change the final score. However, Egypt's complaint was about more than just the result. They were not asking FIFA to replay the match. They were asking for accountability. They wanted the referee's decisions examined. They wanted the review process opened. And that was what made this controversy different. Because the biggest question was no longer only about what happened on the pitch. It was about what happens behind closed doors after the final whistle. While Egypt was waiting for answers, FIFA was already preparing its response. But instead of a direct statement about the complaint, the organization's strongest defense came from one of the most respected figures in world refereeing. Pierluigi Collina, the former legendary referee and current FIFA chief refereeing officer, addressed the controversy through FIFA's official channels. His message was clear. He said criticism of referees has always been part of football. Mistakes and disagreements are normal because refereeing decisions will always create debate. But he drew a line between criticism and accusations. Collina said that unsupported claims against officials have no place in football and warned that questioning the integrity of referees can create serious consequences. including threats against officials and their families. Then he delivered the statement that attracted the most attention. He said nobody can claim that FIFA refereeing decisions are influenced by outside pressure. Not even, he added, by FIFA's own president. That comment immediately became part of the discussion, because Egypt's complaint had focused on refereeing decisions. It had not directly mentioned FIFA President Gianni Infantino, yet Collina chose to include that point in his defense. He was making it clear that FIFA wanted to reject any suggestion that referees could be influenced by powerful figures. But Collina did not stop there. He also defended the controversial decision to cancel Egypt's second goal. According to him, the video officials were correct to intervene because of the earlier contact between Marwan Atiyah and Lisandro Martinez. He explained FIFA's interpretation of the rules. After every goal, VAR officials are allowed to check the entire attacking sequence that led to the goal. If they discover an important foul during that build-up, they can recommend that the referee review the decision. There is no fixed limit on distance. There is no exact time limit. A foul is still considered relevant if it happened earlier in the same attacking move. That was FIFA's argument. The incident did not matter because it happened far from the goal. It mattered because, according to FIFA, the attack was still active. Collina's message was simple. A foul is a foul. However, that explanation did not convince everyone. Many former referees and football analysts questioned whether the attacking phase had actually continued for that long. Former England goalkeeper Rob Green, who was analyzing the match, argued that the incident happened almost the entire length of the pitch away from the goal. He questioned whether VAR should have been involved at all. Mark Clattenburg, a former FIFA referee, also disagreed with the decision. He said he did not believe the contact was serious enough to cancel the goal, and he questioned whether the video officials should have stepped in. His argument was based on consistency. Throughout the tournament, referees had allowed similar physical challenges to continue. Many fans and analysts felt that if the same standard was not applied in every match, then the rules became difficult to understand. Former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher expressed a similar opinion. He suggested that in many major European leagues, the goal would likely have remained after a VAR review. Another voice came from Fernando Guerrero, a former Mexican referee who had previously worked as part of FIFA's video assistant referee team. He studied the same footage and reached a different conclusion. Guerrero argued that Argentina had multiple opportunities to win the ball back before Zico scored. If that was true, then the original foul was no longer part of the same attacking phase. And if the attacking phase had ended, VAR should not have been allowed to go back that far. That created the biggest divide in the entire controversy. Some officials said the decision was correct because the rules allowed it. Others said the problem was not whether the rule existed, the problem was how inconsistently it was being applied. Because a rule that changes depending on the match, the referee, or the moment becomes difficult for fans and players to trust. And that is where the debate moved beyond Egypt and Argentina. It became a discussion about VAR itself, about whether technology was making football fairer, or whether it was simply giving officials another way to make controversial decisions. For Egypt, the pain was not only losing the match. It was losing after believing they had created a historic moment. A goal that could have changed their football history disappeared because of a decision made through technology. And now, the man at the center of it all, François Letexier, had become almost invisible. He had no public interview. No explanation. No response. World Cup referees traditionally do not speak to the media after matches. But reports suggested that Letexier had taken another step. As criticism increased online, he reportedly disabled comments on his social media accounts. Later, reports claimed his account was removed completely. The referee, once recognized as the best in the world, had suddenly disappeared from public view during the biggest tournament of his career. The situation surrounding François Letexier had now become bigger than one decision. It was no longer only about a cancelled goal, a missed penalty appeal, or a single referee's performance. It became a question about trust. Pierluigi Collina had warned about the pressure placed on referees and the abuse they can receive after controversial matches. And that warning was not without reason. Officials at major tournaments often face intense criticism, and sometimes the reaction goes far beyond normal football debate. A referee can make one decision in a few seconds, but the consequences can follow him for years. That is exactly what appeared to be happening with Letexier. A man who had spent his career building a reputation for professionalism was suddenly facing worldwide criticism after one night. But another detail added even more discussion to the situation. FIFA has a long-standing practice of avoiding the appointment of referees from countries that are still competing in the tournament. The reason is simple. It helps prevent questions about possible bias. It protects the credibility of the competition. It is not necessarily written as a public rule, but it has traditionally been followed. And that is where another controversy appeared. François Letexier is French. France were still alive in the tournament. After the Argentina-Egypt match, France advanced to the later stages of the competition. So many people expected Letexier's World Cup journey to be finished anyway. FIFA would not normally appoint a French referee for a match involving France while they remained in the tournament. But then another situation caught attention. France played Morocco in Boston and won 2-0 to reach the semifinals. For that match, FIFA selected a complete officiating team from Argentina. All 5 match officials came from the same country. The irony was impossible for many fans to ignore. Egypt had argued that a referee's nationality could create questions. FIFA's response was that nationality alone does not prove anything. But only days later, an Argentine officiating team was placed in charge of a major knockout match involving France. At the same time, Argentina were the team Egypt believed had benefited from controversial decisions against them. Nobody had to accuse anyone of wrongdoing. The problem was perception. In football, trust is not only about what happens. It is also about how things appear. A decision can be completely legal and still create doubts if the circumstances around it look unusual. And that was the position FIFA found itself in. Egypt wanted a clear verdict. They wanted to know whether Letexier and the VAR team had made serious mistakes. But FIFA controlled the entire process. If Letexier disappeared from the remaining match appointments, Egypt could say their complaint had been successful. FIFA could simply say that referee rotations were normal. Both explanations could exist. And that was the frustration for critics. The public could debate the decision, but they could not see the complete evidence. They could not hear the full referee conversations. They could not read the internal reports. They could only trust FIFA's final word. And that created the biggest criticism of all. A system was judging itself. The organization that selected the referee was also responsible for reviewing him. The same body that created the rules was deciding whether those rules had been correctly applied. For Egypt, that was the heart of the problem. They were not only angry about losing, they were angry because they felt the process gave them no way to challenge what happened. But FIFA also had a difficult argument to make. If a defeated team could successfully remove a referee every time they lost a knockout match, every tournament could turn into endless complaints. Every eliminated nation could demand investigations. Every controversial moment could become a legal battle. That is why FIFA's system is designed to protect referee appointments. A team can complain. A team can request a review. But a team cannot control who officiates future matches. And that is why Egypt was fighting a battle where the outcome was already limited. They could challenge the decisions. They could demand transparency, but they could not rewrite the result. Somewhere inside FIFA's offices, the officials who reviewed the match had already formed their conclusions. The footage existed. The referee communication existed. The reports existed. But the outside world would likely never see everything inside that file. And that is what made the controversy continue. Because the biggest unanswered question was not only, was François Letexier right or wrong? The bigger question was, who gets to decide the truth when the evidence